If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
When Eric would get done with his listing of that 100, 150 players, because you've got to have some structure. And we talked earlier in the show about, okay guys, you want this guy or this guy, this guy or this guy, and it's a cross-check. I would get the coaches then, once we got through all the readings, and we would put our top 100 together. Now, I think it took them a little to get to understand what I was trying to do. I wasn't doing that to then come back 10 years later and go, see, I told you this guy. It was more, if our final board and the scouts had a player at 20 and the coaches had him at 15 or 25, okay, that's fine. Well, I wanted to know, and I would go to Eric because there'd be a handful of guys. The scouts have a guy at 20 and the coaches have him at 50. Or vice versa. Coaches have this guy at 30, scouts got him at 80. Now that's okay, I want to hear why. What's the difference here? Just to prompt the conversation. And typically there'd be, well, this guy did this, he did that. There was information maybe the coaches didn't know typically about a player. But to find out that variance to see if I could get my hands around why this guy maybe had fallen off the board one way or the other.
And where does it lie with coaches and scouts? What does a coach want and what does a scout want? It seems to me, scout just goes on tape more than interviews, or am I incorrect in saying that? That a scout will come back and say, this guy's personality is this way or that way. I mean, you know, even on a guy like Kyle Bull, he had a lot of energy. Some people in the organization saw that as him being nervous. Other people saw that as, man, I can work with that. I want a guy with energy. That's just to use an example, but I can see where Randy Moss would be a great example. I would love to know what went on in that war room in Minnesota. He just fell down the board, and his absolute athleticism, just you had to take it. Yes.
Because that came back to the character in the NFL is not a matter of ethics or morals. It's economics. The character of a guy that you won't have on your team at the 10th pick in the draft, but for some reason he falls to the 30th pick. Ooh, I'll take that chance now because it's not going to cost me as much. And then Randy Moss, for example, he was for the, I think we took him 19, 20, something like that. It was not, everybody knew, no one questioned the ability. Right. But the 19 teams before us didn't think he was worth the economic risk at taking at 10, 12, 15. We ended up taking at 20 and looked like the smart guy. So there's all those factors that go into it. And character is always that interesting one. Derek McFadden, I talked to a guy last year at the draft, with the draft guys up there, and talking about, we took Derek McFadden off the board. We don't want him on our team character-wise. I said, what if you fell to the second round? We'd take him in a minute. Well,
it's the same team.
It's the same guy. Right. But it was, now he's not going to, he's worth more of a risk than
Eric, can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I think it depends on the teams. I think it depends on, there are different sort of levels of character too. There's certain guys that you literally take off the board, which we've done. And I think too, the other thing that I want to say is that the league has changed. The climate of the league has changed a lot from 10 years ago to now. And the commissioner has put down certain edicts and standards of what he wants for the NFL. You've got to be careful. The teams can actually get fined.
Lawrence Phillips kicked his pregnant girlfriend down a flight of steps before the draft. We don't hear about those stories anymore in 2009 because that player's undraftable at this point, right? You do something that stupid, you're no longer a lottery pick. You're just kind of off most teams' board based on Pac-Man Jones, based on Michael Vick, based on the problems the team, everything Marvin's gone through in Cincinnati. We just took on Tank Johnson the other day. But at some point where the commissioner stands, there's a whole different level of responsibility for the teams, let alone the money that's involved.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.